you're pretty good. Where'd you learn to skate?
At home?
She was a pint-sized package of ability and ambition. The first woman ever to win 3 consecutive Olympic gold medals and 10 consecutive World Figure Skating Championships.
Sonja still is the ice skater, the most famous of all, that everyone wants to be.
And when Norway's most famous export took her unique skating style to Hollywood, once again she struck gold, this time at the box office. But Sonja Henie was more than a successful skating star. Her insatiable hunger for success earned her a reputation as one of the toughest personalities in Hollywood and made her one of the 5 wealthiest women in America.
Whatever Sonja Henie turned out to be, she did it the hard way. She paid her dues.
Sonja Henie was born on April 8, 1912, in Oslo, Norway, to a small but affluent family that included her mother Selma and her older brother Leif. Her father Wilhelm was a former 2-time world champion bicyclist. An income from his fur business kept the family wealthy. So wealthy, in fact, that Wilhelm was the first man in town to own an automobile and a private airplane. It was Papa Henie's notoriety and fondness for money that would have a tremendous influence on young Sonja.
She was taught as a child that money was everything. Money could buy you what you needed, and money was a substitute for any close personal attachment.
Almost as soon as she could walk, Sonja was taught how to ice skate by her older brother Leif. As kid sisters often do, she would tag along with him on skating outings and desperately try to catch up. Day after day, she got better, stronger, and faster. So much so that by the age of 5, she won her first skating competition. Soon, her brother's amateur instruction was replaced with private skating and dance lessons. Years of practice and determination began to pay off. In 1921, at the Norwegian Nationals, 9-year-old Sonja delighted the crowds at Frogner Stadium and became the ice skating champion of Norway.
There's always this discussion, are champions born or are they made? And I think there's a little bit of both. You know, I think there are some personalities that are just driven to do whatever and can do it in that do-or-die situation.
Spurred on by the victory, the Henies invested considerable time and money to develop their daughter's talents on a full-time basis. In 1924, Sonja competed in her first Olympic Games, held at Chamonix, France, and she placed an impressive 8th. But losing was a new experience for Sonja, one the 12-year-old was determined never to repeat. Returning home, she began practicing and strategizing for the next Olympics. Formal schoolwork took second place to skating lessons, and socializing was, for the most part, confined to just the immediate family.
Almost from the start, when Sonja got her skates and they discovered that she had this great talent and ambition and ability, she became the focus of the family.
Papa Henie oversaw Sonja's training, while Mama Henie focused on her daughter's wardrobe and diet.
Her father was a motivational person in her life. The father really encouraged her to become the champion that she was and gave her that motivation, that driving power.
At 15, Sonja became the youngest person ever to win the World Figure Skating Championships. The Olympics were just within her grasp. Held in Saint Moritz, France, the 1928 Winter Games offered Sonja her second chance at a medal. The young Norwegian mesmerized the audience with her trademark moves and lavish costumes.
She said, I come from the land of snow, Norway, so I think my skates should reflect that. They should be white, like the snow. So she had a pair of white skates made. That had never been done before. All the women were wearing black or brown skates, like the men.
Rather than having the long skirts to the knees, the skirts were very long and, you know, very prim and proper, but Sonja's were quite short, and she kept that, and absolutely that was her trademark.
She did it because she wanted to be able to do something more athletic. She wanted to lift her leg up and throw it up in the air and do a jump. And that was what she brought to skating, was a completely new concept of freestyle. She did things that women just weren't supposed to do.
At the tender age of 16, Sonja Henie won the gold medal and became an international skating star. For the next 4 years, Sonja's life would be a whirlwind of amateur competitions and skating exhibitions. And as her popularity grew, Papa Henie saw to it that his daughter's efforts did not go unrewarded.
He was very cagey and crafty, and knowing what the rules and bounds of the Olympics and other world championships were as far as amateurs, he made sure that things were given as gifts rather than as payment. So it's all right for her to accept cars, to accept furs, jewelry, to accept living conditions or living situations.
In 1930, Sonja made her first trip to the United States, there to compete in the World Figure Skating Championships. After winning, for the 4th year in a row, she was invited to perform in an ice spectacle for the New York Skating Club. And her name alone drew 16,000 cheering fans to a sold-out Madison Square Garden.
Hello, everybody. This is my first visit to you wonderful America. I am so happy to be here. I know I shall hate to live. I want to thank the American people for their splendid reception.
Seen here is a rare newsreel clip of Sonja that was distributed to theaters across the country. For many, it was their first glance at skating's #1 superstar. At the 1932 Olympic Games in Lake Placid, New York, Sonja again won the gold. For the next 4 years, she continued training and winning hearts at a series of popular personal appearances.
Her skating style was so graceful and so lyrical and lovely, and she just really had the perfect balance of being an athlete and being just a nymph. I mean, just beautiful.
But it was at the 1936 Winter Games, held in Germany, that Sonja's skating would be upstaged by the country's new chancellor, Adolf Hitler.
Everything at the 1936 Olympic was geared to show off the Nazi Party and the power of Hitler and his force. And so he turned the whole exhibition into a display of everyone paying obeisance to Hitler.
Under intense political as well as competitive pressure, many of the athletes saluted Hitler at the beginning and at the end of their routines. Sonja was among those who complied.
Sonja gave the salute to Hitler and to the Germans in the stands. And that, years later, would cause a lot of grief for her.
At 24 years of age, Sonja Henie easily captured her 3rd gold medal and added it to her collection of 10 consecutive World Figure Skating Championships. She was now firmly established as one of the best female figure skaters in history. But Sonja wasn't content to rest on her already impressive laurels. She craved the kind of fame, wealth, and attention that was afforded to movie stars and entertainers. Shedding her amateur status, she boarded the Ile-de-France bound for New York and set her sights on a new life on the silver screen. In March of 1936, Sonja Henie, accompanied by her parents, arrived in New York where she was greeted by hordes of reporters. Adorned with diamond jewelry, a mink coat, and an orchid corsage, the Olympic skating star had long since learned how to make a grand entrance. Within weeks, she was booked into a series of highly publicized and highly lucrative personal appearances. Appearances which brought her to the attention of real estate mogul and Blackhawks hockey team owner Arthur Wirtz.
So Sonja used to come and skate at the intermissions of the hockey games, the 2 intermissions. And Wirtz jokingly said to Sonja, you know, you're ruining my concession business because everyone is staying in the arena to watch you during the breaks in the hockey game. And she said, well, that's because you should have me for the whole evening. And I'll do the whole show. You don't need any hockey. And he said, well, I'll give it a try.
The two quickly formed a partnership, with Sonja receiving $70,000 up front, plus a percentage at the gate. It was her first professional tour, and it was a smashing success. But Sonja was still determined to make her mark in Hollywood. She often declared, I want to do with skates what Fred Astaire is doing with dance.
Her father in particular, and she secondarily, decided that for whatever reason, 20th Century Fox was the studio where she could be best showcased. They were doing a lot of musicals. They knew that Darryl Zanuck, the head of the studio, favored blondes. He had this obsession with them.
In a calculated effort to attract the attention of Fox's resident boy genius, Papa Henie staged a Sonja Henie ice show, renting Hollywood's Polar Palace for the considerable sum of $28,000.
The show, which ran for 3 nights, was very, very successful, and she invited a lot of the top producers and directors. And the second night, Darryl Zanuck came. He was duly impressed by her.
Darryl Zanuck offered her a spot in one of his musicals. You know, the musicals were big in those days. And he offered Sonja a skating number in one of his musicals. She walked out of the office. She wouldn't talk to him. She said, it's me all the way or nothing.
He said, we'll pay you $10,000. She said, no, I want $75,000.
In just 2 short months, Papa Henie's invasion of Hollywood had resulted in an unprecedented financial victory for his daughter. On May 27, 1936, Sonja signed a 5-year movie contract. Included were such perks as a limit to the number of hours she was required to work, time off to continue her ice shows, and a bonus of $7,000 a day for skating sequences.
Miss Henie, it is indeed a pleasure to know that you have accepted this contract to star in 20th Century Fox pictures, and I have every reason to believe that you will achieve on the screen the same international success that has made you the greatest ice skater and the most popular young lady in the world of sport.
Thank you, Mr. Zanuck. I shall do my best.
Fine.
A girl loves a movie contract better than winning an Olympic event. Isn't it so, Sonja? Star of the ice and of the screen.
For her all-important first film, One in a Million, Zanuck surrounded his new star with a galaxy of established personalities, like Don Amici, Adolphe Menjou, Jean Hersholt, and the Ritz brothers.
And so he concocted a story that would be partly autobiographical, and they set it into a European setting, so her accent was fine.
You know, in America, the boy generally puts his arm around the girl when they go sleigh riding.
They do that in Switzerland, too.
Zanuck also employed the use of 4 cameras to simultaneously capture Sonja's famous freestyle moves. One in a Million opened on December 31st, 1936, and became the #1 film of the holiday season, earning more than $2 million at the box office. Within a year after winning her 3rd Olympic gold medal, Sonja Henie had become a full-fledged Hollywood star and the object of interest among the town's most eligible bachelors.
Well, she had an eye for the guys. That little turned-up nose and those dimples worked pretty good, and she was so little and so cute. Men just adored her.
She had a lot of wonderful guys, but I think the one that she liked the most at that time that she was dating was Tyrone Power, who, of course, was the handsomest guy I ever saw in my life.
They were seen everywhere. They went to premieres together. The studio said, oh, this is good publicity because it shows that she's dating a wholesome American person. It's building up Tyrone's career to be seen with her.
Sonja Henie and Tyrone Power, just before the opening of Hollywood's latest Triumph.
While Fox prepped Sonja's next film, she and partner Arthur Wirtz planned an event of their own. Combining theatrical lighting, a live orchestra, lavish costumes, and an ensemble of supporting skaters, the creative duo produced the first-ever theatrical ice show, elevating what had been a sporting event into an art form and a cash cow.
Enter upon the frozen stage of Hollywood's Polar Palace, Sonja Henie, the world's queen of the ice, who steps from the silver screen of 20th Century Fox to inaugurate her transcontinental tour as leading lady of the Hollywood Ice Review. Olympic champion and 10 times the world's top-ranking figure skater, she still symbolizes the skillful grace and poetic poise that brought her universal fame.
For Henie's next picture, Thin Ice, Zanuck had an innovative indoor ice rink built, especially for his newest star. He also planned to re-team her with Don Amici. But when Henie brought production to a halt by insisting that Tyrone Power be cast as her leading man, Zanuck, once again, conceded.
You've given me something, Lily. A new feeling about everything.
I'm glad, Trudy.
Lily.
Yes?
You know that I love you, don't you?
Yes.
But while filming Thin Ice, Sonja received the news that her beloved Papa Henie, her staunchest defender and ally, had died suddenly of a blood clot. It was a tragedy that even she was powerless to control. Finding comfort in the arms of her handsome co-star, Sonja finished the picture. In July of 1937, having left Norway only 16 months before, Sonja and her mother Selma returned home to Oslo with Wilhelm's ashes. But neither was prepared for the overwhelming reception they received when they arrived home.
At Oslo, in her native Norway, a festive boat takes the Queen of the Ice to receive the greeting of 60,000 admirers. The 20th Century Fox star gets a triumphal welcome home.
Back in the United States, Thin Ice was a runaway success, and Sonja's eventual return to Hollywood was no less triumphant than her reception in Norway.
She puts on skates to make a footprint. Logically, because she's Sonja Henie, skating champion and film star, at Sid Grauman's Chinese Theater in Hollywood, where celebrities of the screen leave their footprints on the cement sidewalk. Also, her signature and good luck in the native Norwegian of the Queen of the Ice and film. Sonja Henie and her mother, the Norwegian minister, and his wife. And the 20th Century Fox star is decorated with the Order of St. Olaf. Queen of the Ice and of motion pictures, she receives high honor from her native land.
Sonja's next 2 films firmly established the successful Henie formula. Stories that highlighted the star's physical appeal and concealed her lack of formal training as an actress.
This is indeed a great pleasure, Miss Nielsen.
But I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you.
Oh, Miss Nielsen, say hello to Mr. Taylor.
How do you do, Mr. Taylor?
Oh, now and then I do all right. This is one of the times.
Zanuck was crafty, having been a screenwriter to start with, that he knew how to engineer her pictures so that if you look at her movies, very often she's not in that much of it. She's a side light of the film, but you think that she's a star because she does a skating sequence where she is the star, and she's in the center of attention when people are talking to her, about her, or with her, but she's really not saying or doing that much. And so for her first 3 or 4 movies, she was really a subordinate player with star billing.
Chris, you were great. You can't walk out on us now. You've got to stay. We need you. Listen, everybody. Chris wants to leave us. Are we going to let her go or not? No! Now are you convinced?
I'll stay.
By the end of 1938, Sonja Henie placed 3rd on the Motion Picture Herald's survey of top moneymakers. And her ice review was earning a cool $2 million a year. With the help of her father and family, she had conquered the Olympics and Hollywood. But the world was about to change, and the 26-year-old superstar was soon forced to make the most important decisions of her life. As Hitler and fascism stomped across Europe and her Norwegian homeland was ever more threatened by war, Sonja, in sharp contrast, settled into a comfortable life in the exclusive Holmby Hills section of Beverly Hills.
When I first met her, she wanted me to see her trophy room. She had these huge gold trophies, and they were from skating championships that she had won all over the world. Some were huge, tall, some were small, some were like plates, but they were all gold.
Now the financial head of the Henie clan, Sonja added to her personal fortune through franchised ice skating schools, product endorsements, and merchandising opportunities. And like her father, Sonja was not shy about showcasing the rewards of her hard work.
She would drive around Hollywood in the most gorgeous white Cord car with the top down, and she always wore white. She knew she looked great in white, so that's why she wore white, and she was spectacular.
Famous for her stylish wardrobe and unparalleled collection of diamond jewelry, the dimpled star felt at home with the rich and famous of Hollywood. And as the reigning hostess of Beverly Hills, an invitation to one of her extravagant parties became something of a status symbol.
She was one of a small group of ladies who delighted you when you were invited to one of their parties. And they were lavish, they were beautiful.
Every star in Hollywood would be there that night. Producers and directors, people like Marlene Dietrich and Merle Oberon, Ty Power, who was also at one point in her life very enamored of her, and Clark Gable. Oh, I can go on and on and on, the stars that were there.
She had everybody there, all the A group. We call them the A group.
But though Henie films still fared well at the box office, Fox was beginning to run out of fresh story ideas for their ice princess. As her highly publicized romance with Tyrone Power ended, Zanuck re-teamed the former lovers in Second Fiddle, hoping that the duo's proven screen chemistry could carry the picture.
No, I'm all confused.
Oh, you don't love Willie? You know you don't. And you didn't love Roger either. You love the man that wrote those notes and those rhymes and that song. You love me, am I right?
You can talk a person into more trouble.
Second Fiddle was warmly received by the movie-going public, and Henie once again found herself falling for a handsome man. New York socialite Dan Topping was one of the few men who could compete financially with the 27-year-old millionairess. After he hosted several lavish parties for the fiery blonde, Sonja fell madly in love with him. For the first time, she believed she had found a kindred spirit outside her own family, a man with whom she could start her own life. For her next film, Everything Happens at Night, starring with Robert Cummings and Ray Milland, Sonja was paid an impressive $125,000. Unfortunately, critics were not impressed. One reviewer wrote, "The refrigerators for keeping Miss Henie on ice seem finally to have collapsed of nervous exhaustion." But poor press would soon be the least of Sonja's worries. By now, Nazi forces were systematically plowing their way through Europe. On April 9th, 1940, Hitler stunned the world with the swift invasion of Norway. Sonja's hometown of Oslo fell within 24 hours.
Oslo, on a steep and rocky fjord, was strongly situated for defense. But defense was demoralized. There was some fighting, but not enough resistance to prevent the Germans from landing and swiftly seizing Oslo, giving the Nazi invaders a strategic advantage in the Norwegian War. Historic events are being shaped by these scenes in Oslo.
As news of the Nazi takeover reached her, and with her family home and fortune at stake, Sonja needed to think fast in a desperate effort to protect what assets she could.
Most every house in the area, particularly the plush ones like her summer house, were confiscated for use by the Nazi occupiers. She called up her maid who was in charge of the summer house and instructed the maid to pull out all the memorabilia that showed Hitler being favorable to her, including autographed pictures. And those were planted around the house. And the Germans came in, took a look at the pictures, and politely bowed out.
It was also at this time that Henie took steps to become an American citizen. And on July 4th, 1940, Sonja and Dan Topping became man and wife. But even marriage couldn't unite the couple's considerable assets. The Star's bank accounts would remain her property, and Sonja's business acumen would earn her the nickname Miss U.S. Mint.
She catapulted through to this extraordinary level of stardom during the middle of the Depression, and was making these scads of money and investing like a ferret, you know. I think there was a lot of envy about her.
As Sonja's wealth grew, so did increasing criticism. Especially galling were the skating star's reported refusals to help her homeland in their fight against the Nazis.
And they asked Sonja, would you please donate money to this? And Sonja, for several reasons. One is she hated to part with money. And two, she didn't want to lose her German following. Said, no, I can't do this. I'm an American now. We're neutral. I can't participate. And that created a big uprest with the rest of the Norwegian population.
Determined to maintain her box office status, Sonja pressured Zanuck to pull out all the stops for her next film. Sun Valley Serenade boasted a stellar cast, including John Payne, Milton Berle, Dorothy Dandridge, the Nicholas Brothers, and Glenn Miller and his orchestra.
Waitress.
Yes, sir.
We'll all have a sauerbraten mit Spatzen, cheesecake, and beer. How's that?
Sounds terrible. I'll have a steak.
And waitress, champagne.
Yes, ma'am.
Champagne? Whose birthday is it?
In Norway, we only have champagne at festivals or a christening or a wedding.
Darling, you're psychic. I'm going to let you all in on a little secret. I've accepted Ted's proposal. We're getting married.
But the film's lavish budget and generous production schedule did little to soften the star's sharp business sense. As the picture neared completion, she found that she once again had the upper hand over the studio's boss.
We were nearly through with the picture, Sun Valley. Everything was going fine up until next to the last day. When her contract finished for that picture, she said, well, that's it. Gee, it's been a wonderful time. And they said, well, what happened? We didn't shoot the last scene yet. She said, yes, but I'm through today. I'm through of the days that I'm shooting, according to my contract. Well, back came Zanuck down to the stage. And he said, you have to finish the picture. She said, I know, but my contract is over for the duration of Sun Valley Serenade. Now, this is Sonja. She had a great business brain. She charged him $225,000 for the extra day. What could Zanuck do?
Sun Valley Serenade was completed and, as intended, was a huge hit. Even Newsweek magazine enthused. The blonde figure skater impresses for the first time as an actress rather than a specialist, and easily dominates a vehicle that relies less on ice footage than any of her past musicals. Unable to ignore Sonja or her success, Zanuck was forced to beg his Nordic nemesis to appear in 2 more films.
She controlled. I don't want to say she had the whip, but she really did. And she knew what she wanted, and she got it.
But as Sonja's career was secure, her marriage to Topping was crumbling. It had become apparent that the New York playboy had few financial assets, as well as a roving eye for other women.
Dan used to ask her for money frequently. And one time she was visiting another friend in the Caribbean on a yacht, and so Dan called her on the radio and asked for money. And she was mortified because this was the radio. Anybody could hear it. You know, all the ships at sea could hear the conversation.
I remember he was playing around a little bit and flirting, and she didn't like that because she was very much in love with him. She wanted to get even with him because he flirted a little bit too much that night. It was at her home, and after they had finished their dinner, Earl Flynn somehow had taken her into the trophy room, and Earl Flynn proceeded to kiss her. And Dan Topping walked in, and he knocked Earl Flynn clean across the room. He just wham, that was it.
In just over a year, Sonja's marriage had fallen apart, and the glamorous life she had dreamed of had become a disappointment. By now, the whole world was at war, and Sonja Henie could no longer hide behind her dimpled smile. After her husband joined the Marines and was shipped overseas, Sonja avoided the subject of her crumbling marriage. She openly dated young Hollywood stars like Van Johnson. And like many celebrities, she contributed to the war effort by visiting service hospitals and selling war bonds. But as her fellow Norwegians still suffered under the Nazi occupation, many were bitter about Sonja's continued lack of support, and many could not escape the widely circulated photograph of Sonja shaking hands with Adolf Hitler at a 1934 skating exhibition.
You meet somebody like Hitler, that doesn't mean that she was one of his people. He just admired her as an artist. Even today, you know, if somebody like that came up, what can you do? You just say hello. Doesn't mean that you have to sympathize with their ideologies.
I don't think she was a political animal. She was a Henie animal. You know, I mean, everything was really in relation to her orbit.
Fox, meanwhile, planned 2 more Henie vehicles, Iceland with John Payne and Wintertime, co-starring Jack Oakey.
Sonja could be far more than what they had her do on ice. In fact, by the early 40s, she developed a great sense of comedy flair.
No, it won't work. Not with me and Freddie.
Why not?
We're both too stubborn. I'll show you what I mean. If he came in here right now, he'll say, "Hello, Nora." And I'll say, "So you finally tore yourself away from that woman." And he'll say, "Whatever I do is none of your business." And that will make me mad. And then I'll say, "If that's the way you feel about it, you don't have to see me anymore." And he'll say something, and I'll say something, and he'll say something, and that will get me mad. And if I get mad, I lose my temper. And if I lose my temper, I get my head up like this, and I can't...
Nora. But Wintertime would be Sonja's last picture for Fox. World War II was coming to an end. Audience tastes were changing, and the skating star's films now seemed quaint and old-fashioned. After completing 9 films in 7 years, Sonja was out on her own. In 1945, RKO took a chance on Sonja and cast her in It's a Pleasure.
Yes, it's a pleasure. That's out of this world. A dazzling symphony of grace and beauty, skill and spectacle, with the queen of the flashing blades, Sonja Henie.
But although shot in Technicolor, the film was a box office failure.
The pictures that Sonja made, they were entertaining pictures. She skated beautifully. They didn't have the content that pictures of some of the others like Dietrich and Garbo and those people had.
In 1946, Sonja signed on at Universal to make the Countess of Monte Cristo. It was the kind of glittering confection she'd been famous for. But unlike the Henie of old, the star was increasingly insecure about her popularity and her age. She started quarreling openly with the studio and her director.
Sonja wanted to do the skating first, and she didn't want to clutter it up with dialogue. You acted when you acted, and you skated when you skated. At least that's the way she felt about her skating.
Released in 1948, The Countess of Monte Cristo would be Sonja Henie's last film. At 34, she returned to the rink and devoted her time and energy to touring in her ice review. As always, she approached skating with innovation, artistry, and showmanship.
She tried to make each of her numbers completely different, the 7 numbers that she did in the show every evening. It was her ability to have this diverse character that made her so good.
Not only was she this beautiful ice princess, she was an amazing businesswoman. The technology that they use for portable ice skating rinks today, that technology was created for Sonja Henie, and it's still the one system that works today. So she really pioneered so much that we still have and that we still use.
Divorced from Dan Topping since 1946, Sonja once again fell in love with a man who she believed fit the Henie profile of an acceptable mate. Winnie Gardner Jr. was an East Coast millionaire with leading man good looks and a family pedigree that dated back to the 1600s. The two were married on September 15th, 1949. But like her first marriage, Gardner had greater social standing than financial assets. He spent most of his time drinking and meddling in her business affairs.
And he claimed that Arthur Wirtz was making all the money, and more than Sonja. He would constantly be needling her, you know. Do you know how much money the building made today, Sonja? You know, much more than you did, and things like this. And so he finally convinced her that she should go and produce her own show.
Taking her husband's advice, Sonja was determined to produce the shows on her own. After 13 years, the tremendously successful and highly profitable partnership of Wirtz and Henie was dissolved.
She didn't know how to book a show, because Wirtz had always done that. She had her brother managing the show for a while, and he had got out a road map and put it on the floor of their hotel room, and he decided on where the next town would be, where they'd play, by the size of the dots on the road map. It was a very foolish way to book a show. So her show just kept going down, and it was simply because it was badly produced and badly promoted and badly planned.
Saddled with another unhappy marriage and burdened with the complete responsibility for her ice shows, Sonja began to drink.
It's a tough life, you know. It's traveling and living in hotels and out of suitcases, and, you know, you don't really have your family, and you have a few friends.
For the first time in her life, Sonja was losing money, and the quality of her shows was slipping. In 1952, at an ice show in Baltimore, the stadium bleachers collapsed during a performance. Hundreds were injured, and Sonja blamed her brother Leif for the mishap. Unable to meet the $1 million bond for her next show in New York, Sonja was forced to cancel, paying off employees and refunding money to ticket holders. Lawsuits escalated, as did the skaters' need to escape by drinking. Now 40, and with her film career behind her and her ice shows in trouble, Sonja headed back to Norway for the first time since the war. It was a homecoming she had dreaded, but could no longer avoid.
When she finally went back to perform in Norway, on opening night, she was scared to death that they were going to boo her off the stage. The old recollection came back and said, Sonja, there were things you did in your past that weren't nationalistic or patriotic.
Sonja Henie.
Ultimately, time had healed the wounds for most Norwegians and rekindled the pride they felt for their champion. Sonja's show was a tremendous hit and sold out for 30 consecutive nights. But the triumph was short-lived. Exhausted and still drinking heavily, Sonja took the show on the road and was jeered by a Brazilian audience when she fell during a performance. Desperately in need of rest and relaxation, she spent time with old friends. At a dinner party, she sat next to one of her brother Leif's former business partners, Niels Onstead, and the two struck up a romance. Like Sonja, Onstead was wealthy, stubborn, strong, and passionate. On June 6, 1956, they were married. And for the first time, Sonja had truly found an equal.
Niels Onstead was a lovely man, and he was totally devoted to her. And, of course, he was from her country, and I just thought it was an ideal marriage.
Among the couple's shared interests was a passion for collecting fine art. Onstead favored abstract art, and his enthusiasm excited Sonja as nothing had since she discovered Hollywood. The couple maintained homes in Beverly Hills, Lausanne, and Norway. They shared their love of art and indulged themselves with a lavish lifestyle.
Now and then we would go out for lunch. Then afterward we'd go shopping at Rooser's or Laken's jewelers, and she would always buy something. She had 10 or 12 incredible diamond necklaces. One of them, I remember, had marquee-shaped diamonds all the way around.
With the passing of her mother in 1960 and the estrangement from her brother Leif, Niels had become Sonja's lifeline. More and more, the couple's time was spent supervising the construction of a magnificent art museum overlooking Oslo's fjord. It would be a home for their priceless collection and all of Sonja's trophies. When the Henie Onstad Art Center opened in August 1958, the gala was attended by the Norwegian royal family and a contingent of famous and titled international friends. But what should have been a great celebration turned into a painful snub when Sonja and Niels were deliberately excluded from an important luncheon in honor of the museum. Wounded and humiliated, Niels and Sonja returned to Los Angeles, where Sonja returned to her first love, skating. But at 56, Sonja was feeling unusually fatigued. After a string of doctor's appointments, Niels was given the terrible news. Sonja was gravely ill.
She invited me out to skate that day at Pickwick, and we did a few of our old routine items. She was just as spunky as ever, even though by this time she was going down with the leukemia that eventually took her.
On October 10th, 1969, on a plane bound for Oslo and with her head resting quietly on her husband's shoulder, Sonja Henie died in her sleep. She was 57 years old. Despite her past difficulties with her fellow Norwegians, her funeral was a regal affair, befitting a much-loved national hero. Bugles, drum rolls, and banks of flowers paid fitting tribute to the woman who had been her country's reigning queen of the ice. In life, Sonja Henie embodied the best of the athletic spirit. Hers was a life lived for fierce competition and enormous success. And if her methods were not always understandable to her critics, her outstanding achievements will certainly stand the test of time.
I have the greatest admiration for Sonja and what I think she made the industry.
Sonja Henie opened the doors for people such as Peggy Fleming and myself, and there was so much to learn from her in the presentation and the artistry and her beautiful smile.
She was one of the greatest entertainers in the world and a champion. She was a terrific woman.
She was a living, breathing doll on ice.